So it was definitely a challenge. I had an idea of what I was going to expect because in high school I did dual enrollment courses. So my junior and senior year were all at my local college, Florida Gulf Coast University. And so I did collegiate level courses up to Calc 2, and then I did Physics 1, Physics 2, Chem 1, Chem 2. So I had kind of an idea of like what to expect as far as like the kind of the rigor going in. But Rice is definitely at like another level of intensity, and that was something that took me kind of aback. I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't know how hard. But so that was definitely a milestone patch that I had to work through. And there's just a lot of material to learn, and Rice goes really fast, but really thoroughly. And so I understood this concepts I learned in high school to a whole nother level. And I think that's really admirable, something that Rice does, but it also makes it a little bit harder. And I also had the opportunity to be a Rice cheerleader.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Career Education Learning Center podcast. I'm your host, Mitchell Rivers. I am thrilled and excited to have Autumn Rhodes on our show today. Autumn is a freshman at Rice University, major in mechanical engineering and astronomy. In addition, she is also a certified pilot. I can't wait till we talk about that later on in the podcast. How are you doing today, Autumn?
I'm doing great. Like I said, I've been having a good holiday season, and I'm back at my my grandma's place, and having a good relaxing break before stuff picks up again in the spring.
Thank you so much for coming on our show today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, I'm excited to be here.
Well, Autumn, how did that first semester go for you at Rice?
Yeah, so it was definitely a challenge. I had an idea of what I was going to expect because in high school I did dual enrollment courses. So my junior and senior year were all at my local college, Florida Gulf Coast University. And so I did collegiate level courses up to Calc 2, and then I did Physics 1, Physics 2, Chem 1, Chem 2. So I had kind of an idea of like what to expect as far as like the kind of the rigor going in. But Rice is definitely at like another level of intensity, and that was something that took me kind of aback. I knew it was going to be hard, but I didn't know how hard. Mm-hmm. But so that was definitely a milestone and a rough patch that I had to work through. And there's just a lot of material to learn, and Rice goes really fast, but really thoroughly. And so I understood this concepts I learned in high school to a whole nother level, and I think that's really admirable, something that Rice does, but it also makes it a little bit harder. And I also had the opportunity to be a Rice cheerleader.
Wow.
I auditioned for that back in the spring. Yeah, back in like March of 2023. I auditioned, and then I got an email saying that I was accepted. And so we had practices all through the first couple of weeks, and then we got into football games. And so that was like 2 practices a week for 2 hours, and then the games on Saturdays. So it was a big time commitment, but I love cheer, and I am so glad I did it. We even went to a bowl game recently on the 26th against Texas State. We did lose, unfortunately.
Yeah, I seen some of that game. I did. I seen a little bit of that game, surprisingly.
Yeah.
I know our interview was coming up, so I did look at a little bit of that game there.
Yeah, we fought hard, but not hard enough.
That's all your best. That's all you can do. That's all you can do.
Yeah. But those are the two things. Balancing school and extracurriculars has definitely been a challenge since the workload is pretty intense at Rice. But I love the people, I love the environment, and they really want you to learn and grow. So overall, it's been a great semester, and pretty good GPA coming out. So I'm pretty proud of that.
That's good. I'm going to let audience know that you're in a cafeteria in a restaurant there. That's why you see people going back and forth, audience. And, Autumn made time for me, and I really appreciate it, Autumn, with you making time in between your busy schedule there, going back and forth these places there.
Absolutely,
So why did you major in, no, let me ask this question first. Why did you choose Rice University?
Yeah. So in my junior year, in the summer of my junior year, I got this letter from Envision is what it's called. And they sent me a letter and they were like, hey, we think that you'd be a good fit for this program. And I was like, what is this? I thought it was a scam at first. And I was like, this is weird. And then I looked it up. I saw what it was, and it's called Envision Aerospace and Aviation. I'm not really sure how they found me, but I did get the letter. And I decided to register for the program, and it was at Rice University. It was like about a week and a half, 10 days, where we got to go to Rice, and we got to learn from some of the professors at Rice, and kind of get immersed in the aerospace and aviation culture at Rice. We got to visit the Johnson Space Center. We visited the Lone Star Aviation Museum. We got to create our own projects in our teams, and then like little experiments, and launch them on a balloon, like a weather balloon. And so we got to see the effects of our experiments. And I think ours was about the effect of radiation on like a watch, and like if that would affect it at all. But so yeah, that program was 10 days. And during that time, I got to see the campus. I got to, immerse myself in the environment, and I got to meet some of the incredible professors that are at Rice and teach. It was an incredible experience, and it definitely hooked me. I think the campus, and also just like I could tell that it was just like a really homey for me. And it was in Texas, a really big hub of aerospace. Right. And so there was just so many things that like hooked me. But that experience was definitely one of the first things that I was like, oh, this is definitely an option. I was also heavily looking at the United States Naval Academy. Wow. Yeah. Excuse me. I was considering the academy because of their amazing aerospace program. They have an amazing aerospace engineering program, and I knew that I would get a really good, strong education there for free. And I would just have to commit after my time at the academy to a minimum of 4 years. But I knew that time commitment would be stretched out because of me wanting to be a pilot. Because they pay for your training in turn for you to serve longer time in the military. So it was kind of like a toss-up. I did have a scholarship, the Jack Kane Cook Youth Foundation. And so a lot of the youth scholars end up being college scholars, which I was. I did end up being a college scholar, which means that they could pay up to $55,000 $55,000 of my tuition, room and board, whatever I needed. And so that really took a weight off my shoulders, because I was like, I could really go anywhere, which I was really grateful for, because of that scholarship. And I'd be happy to talk more about that, because that was really revolutionary. That was a really revolutionary program that allowed me to kind of choose wherever I wanted. But yeah, so I did end up choosing Rice because of how at home I felt there. And while they didn't have an aerospace engineering program like I had originally wanted, they did have a mechanical engineering, which was very similar. It covered the same concepts, but just on a broader scale, which I appreciated, because it allowed me to have some like diversity in my field of study. So, I could do internships in like manufacturing engineering, or I could do internships in programs in aerospace engineering. So I had a lot of diversity and like flexibility there, because the skill set that they were teaching was so broad. In comparison to aerospace engineering, it's all going to be for aviation and aerospace.
Wow, and that is amazing. And you combine mechanical engineering with astronomy. How's that combination? So how's that going for you?
Yeah, so I haven't taken my first astronomy course yet. I'm going to take it next semester. Okay. So that'll give me like a little bit of a taste of what it's going to be like. But I know that it'll progressively get more difficult. But I know that there's this one class that I really am interested in. One of my main things that I'm interested in like astronomy and astrophysics is cosmology. So I really love thinking about like the origin of the universe and like formation of galaxies and nebula and things like that. So there's this class that astronomy majors can take called astrophysics, galaxies, and cosmology, and that's like right up my alley. So I'm definitely excited for that. But yeah, I'm excited to immerse myself in that as well as focus on engineering as well. So a very kind of like opposite ends of STEM. One's very like hands-on and one's very theoretical and computational, which is really interesting for me. I got in also with the Jack Hancock Foundation. I love them.
I would love them too. I love them too. You know, here at the Career Education Learning Center, we try to have students, really try to get scholarships, grants, fellowships. They're out there. It's a matter of getting them. And so we want to encourage them to get that so that they have the choices that you have to where you go to the university that you choose, as your choice. And so that was great about that foundation doing that.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you this. So are you a sci-fi geek like I am? I'm a sci-fi geek. I love all the sci-fi channels. I love Sci-Fi Channel. I'm Star Trek. I'm Star Wars. Mandalorian, you name it, I am there. Is that what you got interested in it? Have you always been a sci-fi or mechanical engineering kind of person that always hands-on and, detail-oriented?
Yeah, I think my parents were really into like sci-fi and Star Wars and Star Trek.
Yes.
I think my dad showed me like Star Wars when I was really little, and my parents have watched like every reboot of Star Trek like to date. So they really love it. And I think that was probably like one of the things when I was really little that got me interested. And my mom was also super supportive of like me doing anything that I want to do. And I'm sure when she heard like pilot, she was like, "Ooh, I like that." And so she encouraged me to do that. And I fell in love with it. And I fell in love with engineering and aerospace. But yeah, I do think it may have come from, those little tidbits of like aerospace and sci-fi that I had growing up.
Yeah, and so that's what I want to tell parents who are visualists who are parents like I am, is that you never know what you may plant in your son or daughter, what they may teach you to do, My son's a screenwriter, and so he writes and his mother writes, and so that's where he got that writing from. And then watching TV all the time and movies and sci-fi and everything else, then he picks that up also. I got another son that's he want to be an entertainer too. So all that goes fast and kind of my personality, my hobbies, right? I love entertainment. I love movies. I love sci-fi. I'm a geek at large. I'm not smartest. You, Autumn. I can't do all that math courses. My brother was a math major. I'm more of a history person. My mom was English. And so I fell right there in the middle in a little bit there. But that is great how they planted that seed into you. I know also that I looked on your profile. You said something about some type of sci-tech coming up soon in January. Did we finish in December? Well, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it goes back a little ways. So I was a part of this program called Higher Orbits. So they are a organization headed by Michelle Lucas, and she is a like space enthusiast and also an advocate for space education. And so she created this program where it's called Go for Launch, where students get together at this event, and they are put into teams, or they choose their own teams, and then they are able to create an experiment that could go inside a CubeSat, which is like a cube satellite that could go up into space into the ISS. So I did this program back in 2021, and I actually knew some of the girls previously that were in my group. It was in it was in Lakeland, Florida, that I did this. And so we drove over there, and this was like a multiple day thing. We stayed nearby, and like we came every day. I think it was like 2 or 3 days. And then our group decided to study this bacteria called Deinococcus radiodurans, and it's this polyextremophile that is really radiation resistant. And so we wanted to test and it has specific lipids that can help in the treatment of RSV in babies, so respiratory cynovirus or sinus virus. And so we wanted to see if the lipids could still be extracted after increased reproduction in space because bacteria tends to reproduce quicker in space. And it was supposed to come down after 30 days, and then we're seeing if the lipids could be extracted. And so we haven't got the data back yet, but that experiment we were chosen from the group, and then we had to do more research on the topic and submit a research paper. And then we were able to, we were like chosen again. And then we finally had that experiment launched into space in, I think it was 2020. I think it was this year, 2023, in March. Yeah. So like I said, we haven't gotten the results back yet, but with our organization, I've created like a pretty good connection with Michelle Lucas. And she wanted students to come and speak on a panel about their experience with higher orbits and like how it's affected them in their education towards aerospace engineering or or towards aviation, etc. So at AIAA SciTech at the SciTech conference, I'm speaking on that panel on Thursday, the 11th. So it's in Orlando, Florida. So it'll be a great opportunity and also a great experience for me because I've never been to an aerospace conference. So hopefully it'll be a really great opportunity for me to like, network and
it will be. And I encourage our viewers and listeners to go to conferences. Man, you learn a lot with people, networking. It's fun. It's exciting. It's something that you're interested in, something that you're passionate about. And after this conference, I guarantee you, Autumn, you'll be going a whole lot more.
I'm really excited.
A whole lot more, And if they're in Orlando, Florida, I would definitely be down there going to them. And I know nothing about engineering and nothing, but you see me down there like, what is Mr. Rivers doing down here? Why are you doing that, Mr. Rivers? I would definitely love to go to conferences like that. That's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be rewarding for you.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that certification on your pilot. When did you get your pilot license?
Yeah. So my parents, being the wonderful people that they are, when I was really little, I was like 10. And we had there was this organization in our community called the Experimental Aircraft Association. And it's this like collection of like older retired guys that like to build planes. And they're like retired pilots. A lot of them are pretty well off. And so they like to build their own planes and fly them, which is a little bit, it's a little crazy to think about, but they're like certified and a lot of them are kits. So they'll put the kits together and then they'll go fly the planes. And it's super cool. But there's also a program that's within it called Young Eagles. And Young Eagles is a program that works to take students up for first flights to get them to know about aviation and like get them exposed to it. So when I was 10, I went and I took a first flight with this organization.
Wow.
And I remember his name. His name's Rich. And I flew in an RV-7A. It's like this white and red small plane. All of these are small aircraft.
Right.
And so, right. And so we went up, and I remember like this feeling in my stomach from us lifting off the ground. And it's so cheesy, but I always call it love at first flight, because I just like, it was the moment that I was like, yeah, I want to do this. This is so cool. And I came back down, and then I was like obsessed. And at this point, there was very little kids there. It was a lot of like older guys, and not a lot of students were coming to these events. But then I started volunteering with the organization, and I developed better relationships with all the pilots there. And it became like a really big part of my volunteering and a really big part of like my aviation journey. And I actually met a gentleman there his name's Bob, and he had he took me up for a flight. Like, I think I was like 12. He took me up and he was like, you're really good. You're already great. And I want to fly with you more. And so I started meeting up with him outside of the monthly meetings. These meetings were monthly. And I started flying with him, and he's not a certified flight instructor or anything, but he would teach me things about aviation to get me exposed and to like help me learn. And he would take me up, and I would fly with him, and he would teach me maneuvers in the air, not officially, of course, but it was really amazing to have that experience before I started training.
That is fantastic.
I wasn't old enough to train.
Yeah, but that is fantastic. I think that's one thing that's important, that mentorship. I think I try to, teach that all in the mentorship program. It doesn't have to be an official program, but you as an adult, if you're able in a profession that you think kids will love and enjoy, and you see excitement of a young person in that field, like you see excitement in you say, look, I'm going to pass on my knowledge that I have to you, and that way when you are old enough to fly and get your license, then you'll be ready. That is fantastic. Right. Now, I'm really into mentorship, passing down what you know, trying to help the next generation come up, and just have them, like I said before, when you have love, a passion for a hobby, to do something that you may be able to turn into a career. And that's what we talk about Career Education Learning Center. Not only with Scholarship Resource Center, but the reason I have this podcast is to expose students, high school and college students, to different professors in different areas, to think about internships, thinking about mentorship, thinking about getting your hands dirty or getting into the grind of things that you really enjoy. That way you'll find out whether you like it or not, right? And I had people guys talking about, they wanted to try this, they didn't like it, they want to try that, and then they finally found something they did try. And so you'll find that. And that goes along with that STEM program. Along your program, you're talking about you really want to increase the STEM program as far as attracting more women to STEM. Is that what you want to accomplish when you graduate from Rice?
Yeah, as part of my Girl Scout Gold Award, I created a program in my community to introduce young women to aviation. I did some workshops, and a lot of girls went up in planes and flew, and had that experience. And that's really what I want to do. I want to encourage and inspire young women to pursue aviation and at least be exposed to it. That's something that I learned from EAA, the Experimental Aircraft Association, is that I love teaching and I love mentoring people, especially in something that I'm so passionate about, which is aviation and aerospace. So I'd love to continue that. I'd love to help the Girl Scouts create some sort of aviation program, because they did used to have one called Wing Scouts, and girls could actually earn their private pilot's license through Girl Scouts.
Wow, that is fantastic! Wow,
but they don't have that anymore, and and so I was advocating to the National Council to create that patch again. And there's they say that there's a lot of liability involved, which I completely understand. But they are working on creating an aviation badge and implementing that back, because they have robotics, they have computer science badges, but they don't have aviation like they used to. So yeah, absolutely. I'd love to continue that mission and continue to inspire young women to pursue, this other career field that isn't really thought about too often.
Right. So that's part of your future career plans when you graduate and get out of school. That's one thing that you really want to do is to mentor young women and introduce them to aviation. That is fantastic and amazing, because it's good to pass on that knowledge that you have to our young people, get them interested in something you're doing, and then enjoy it and really start, getting involved and study hard in school, about the math and science that goes into that, getting into STEM, because I think that's something that not only women, but also minorities are lacking in the STEM programs for them, and really get them involved. I mean, just like young people do what they want to do, And as a young person, I was young at one time, believe it or not, Autumn. I was young. I haven't always been this age like people think I have. I was young at one time, and I did have dreams and passions and stuff. I just haven't yet reached my dream yet at my age. So I think I'm young at heart. I had somebody told me the other day, Mr. Rivers, you don't look as old as I thought you were when you told me your age. I said, I appreciate that, It takes a lot of exercise, which I haven't done lately. It takes drinking a lot of water, which I haven't done lately. And it takes getting lots of sleep, which I haven't done lately. So I don't know how I look so young. I guess I'm just blessed. That's all I can say. I'm just blessed to look so young. Well, Autumn, thank you so much for coming on our show today. I'm definitely going to have you back on our show today. And you realize that, right? Because you just use a lot of knowledge and things that we can really grab onto, those little nuggets to pass on to the next generation. Is there anything you'd like to say before you leave the podcast today?
Just don't be afraid to ask for help, I think, because that was something that I struggled with in high school is, ask people to help revise an essay or write me a recommendation letter. And those are skills that I learned throughout the years, and especially in high school, but even in middle school, just take advantage of the opportunities that you're given, and don't be afraid to reach out to people and ask for those opportunities.
That is good advice. That is really good advice, and I'm definitely heeded that even at my age there. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Well, Autumn, thank you so much for coming on our show today. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
I learned a lot. I enjoyed it, and we're gonna have to have you back again. Okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
Now, I'd also like to thank our viewers and listeners for joining me, Mitchell Rivers, on the Career Education Learning Center podcast, where we're making your career dreams a reality. God bless.